Sure, everybody has their memory of September 11th, and it was a Tuesday. It was a beautiful day. The sun was shining. It was a fall day. I was stationed at the Pentagon as a colonel. I was assigned there as the Deputy Director for Strategy and Plans for the Marine Corps. So my day started like, oh, gee, I had this appointment I had to go to that day over at the Senate. My name popped up on the list to be interviewed to be the Senate liaison for the Marine Corps, which is, I don't know how that happened. I didn't want the job, but I had to take my uniform to work, and I had to go, had an appointment at the Senate.
It was the middle of my contract, and randomly my mom told me, she said, you will see some sort of conflict or combat during your 4 years. And I was like, what? Like, how did my mom know this? Yeah. And here, 2001 happened, and I was active duty. I was a Marine. I served at Camp Pendleton. We were actually PTing that day. We were 4 hours behind what was happening on the East Coast. And all we heard was the United States was being attacked, right? We didn't have the technology we had today. We didn't have the Facebook or, tweets and stuff like that. We just thought we were being attacked. And never tell Marines you're being attacked on your own home turf, because everybody was running straight to the armory. And we're like, wait, what are we doing? Like, we don't know what's happening.
As I was in my office, I heard this commotion out there, and I went out, and there was the TV on, and we witnessed the first plane hit the towers there in New York City. And when that second plane came in, it was clear that something terrorist related was going on. But for me, I called over and I said, do you still want me to come over? Do you see what's going on TV? They said, yes, come on over. But I did not think the Pentagon was a target, that there was a potential plane inbound to the Pentagon at that time. Mm-hmm. I just didn't think that. I was thinking, okay, I better make my appointment.
They shut down all the bases. We weren't allowed to leave the base. I had a 1-year-old at the time. I lived out in town, and she was stuck with the babysitter. I could not leave the base to get to her, and it was probably the worst day of all of our lives. But it was just so terrifying. And I remember hearing that a plane hit in Pittsburgh, and my sister, she works at Mellon 1, and it's one of the second tallest building in Pittsburgh. And here I thought my sister was hit, or her building got hit that day. And we didn't have cell phones. We didn't have technology. We had pagers, so right. It's hard to get information out. And it was one of the most terrifying days in my military career.
I excused myself and went down and caught the bus. And we had just probably cleared the Pentagon parking lot in the shuttle bus. The driver heard something crackle on the radio. He said, something is going on at the Pentagon. And he jammed on the brakes, and we all turned our head back. And we saw this massive flame and black smoke curling up over the Pentagon. And it was a sight that was unbelievable. At that point, we proceeded on to the Senate. In front of me was just one senator after another coming out. It was like, I know that person. I've seen that person on TV. It was like unbelievable. I was not looking where I was going, and this senator was not looking where she was going. But if he wanted to know where Hillary Clinton was at that time, she bumped right into me. We bumped. We thudded pretty hard, and we were only inches away, and I looked at her, and there was fear. There was fear. When I did get home, we lived in a cul-de-sac. There were other military families there. And when the Marine dropped me off, my wife Linda was there, and she ran over and, a hug. She was trembling. And I looked over, and our neighbor, the Dickerson family, Paige, and the two children, Will and Beth, were sitting there on the stairs. And I was the last person, military, that got picked up, that got reunited with their family. They were left sitting there waiting for their dad. at that time, Major Jerry Dickerson. Sean, it was tough because she would get phone calls. We saw him, don't worry. He's probably here, he's probably there, okay. But one call after another was just uncertain. I had never spent that time with a military family and with kids where they slowly learned that their father, that their husband was not coming home. This is something that you don't expect when you go to the Pentagon to an office job, to be attacked by Al Qaeda right then and there. But you know, it was a personal loss that I felt in every bone in my body because of the kids and the wife. It was a tight family.
It was a big game, like a big waiting game. You know, when were we leaving? When were we going? It was the unknown. We didn't know how it was going to change our military service after that.
I joined in March 2001, and so it was very peaceful then. Nothing was going on, and even when I went out to the recruiters, they're like, "Oh yeah, you know, it's unlikely that you would ever have to be deployed." You know, it is what it is. And then September 11th happened of that same year, and then everything changed. So I was slated to still go to basic training in September of 2001, and I still ended up going. My flight was delayed, but it was before basic training, but after I had sworn in.
I enlisted, technically it was summer of 2001, and I didn't ship off and start basic training until July of 2002. So I signed up pre 9/11 and actually shipped off after I graduated my senior year the following July. For me, I assumed that I'd be going to war, and it would have been a few weeks, month, I forget which, after 9/11 happened. I remember being called by my recruiter, and he asked me, like, "Hey, you're still gonna do this?" And I was like, "Yeah, like, of course, like, why not? I signed up for this, and so that's what I want to do." And he was just calling to make sure, because they had so many people that were, because I was in what they called the delayed entry program. I'd signed up, in advance, and had a date to ship out, start my training after I graduated my senior year. I'd signed up actually when I was 17, and he'd had a bunch of people drop out of the program.
As a caveat, my recruiter had said, if you don't want to continue to move forward, you really don't have to. Even though I had sworn in, it was still that time in between. So I had a chance to back out, but I really didn't feel like it was the right move to change my mind. So I kept moving forward.
So I did 4 years active and then 4 years inactive. And during that inactive service time period, they can activate you in a situation if they needed. Then that's when I got presidential recalled, and I thought it was a joke at first.
At that time, what was it like leaving your daughter?
It was hard. The hardest thing, I'm glad I have great parents. My mom, they did a great job with her. She was 2 years old when I left. It was a very trying time. I didn't know if I was coming back to her. As a 22-year-old, you're signing over your parental rights. My husband was also, he was going back to Oregon. He joined the National Guard because the Marines weren't sending anybody, but, we had to sign over our parental rights. We had to sign a will. It was probably the hardest thing in my life, leaving my 2-year-old and not knowing if I would ever see her again.
So, 9/11 for me, 20 years ago, this memory is seared in my memory of the sacrifice of the service member, but also the family and the pain that's brought. And I just want everybody to remember his name, Jerry Dickerson, and look him up and just remember that. Put a name to this 9/11. And there's 3,000 names. There's stories that go on and on that we should not forget about. We can't.